Welcome to the All Access Podcast from the experts at Tevis. Each episode, we'll talk about technology topics, trends, or solutions that manufacturers need to know in today's rapidly evolving times. Sit back, enjoy the discussion, and let us know what you think.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the All Access Podcast. I am your host, Michael Thiessen. And at the beginning here, I want to kind of set the stage because in last several episodes, we really have been focusing a little bit on, not even a little bit, quite heavily on the entire AI thought process and where we are and what we're doing, what should we do, what are the concerns, and because it is such a hot topic that everybody is asking questions about AI. I mean, we can't help ourselves anymore in our daily lives, not even thinking about AI, if that's Copilot or Grok or ChatGPT or any of these other AI that are open AI for all of us. I mean, we can't help ourselves. Every single place we go, there's some influence that AI is being utilized. And of course, from us in the manufacturing society, especially in the automotive mold and die, that's also something that you guys are asking about quite a bit. So, of course, it's only fitting that we want to have an expert on today that can really talk about the entire thought process of AI adoption at your company or in the manufacturing society or just in general. And then kind of tell you what's working or what is applicable, what is not quite working, what are your benefits out of this entire AI. We're going to be talking about all this AI hype, and we talk about the adoption and all of this, and then also we're talking about where is it actually getting stuck? What are some of the problems that we're running into, especially in manufacturing? So I'm going to be talking to a gentleman who is the founder and CEO of Fountain City. This company is a technology studio that deals with AI agents and that builds autonomous AI agents. So we're going to be talking about him and about his company, Fountain City, what the education around AI looks like and the adoption, this word AI governance, we're going to dive a little bit into, and all of that kind of stuff. Sebastian Chedal, you have been doing this thing for, I guess, about 25 years now, working with multiple different brands. I would say you have quite a bit of knowledge when it comes to this. So listen, I got to step back in time with you because Fountain City, you've started this company. When was this? Back in 1998?
98, yeah, in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Yeah, so quite a while ago, and it has evolved a lot. The biggest we've ever been is 22 people, but most of our recent history has been smaller. Right now, we're actually even smaller than historically because we have a lot of agents that we're bringing in right now. But yeah, so 98 is when we first formed in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And then in 2008, I moved over to Portland, Oregon. And so.
Now, I have to assume that back in 1998, you weren't talking about agents and AI. Or were you talking already or looking at that already? Because for most of us, AI is pretty new.
So actually in 2001 or 2, but somewhere around there, I did a project for Heineken, which was essentially a early version of an LLM or an early version of AI systems, because what I built for Heineken at that point was a system that took natural language text. You could just text a phone number, and Heineken likes to go on these tours to show off their their technical astuteness, because they love to buy or help support lots of small breweries around the planet.
Right.
And so when they go visit a small brewery, they might have a beer, right? Because they sell beer.
Of course.
And as they're in the bar talking, so the idea was that they were bringing this projector with them on a screen. And so you could just text this phone number with something about soccer, because, beer and soccer goes well.
They go hand in hand, yes.
They go hand in hand, and you might say something like, oh, I want to see Zidane score in the World Cup in Paris in whatever year that was, 2000 or something like that. And then, so I built the whole system that took that text message you send, translated it into something the computer can understand, nouns and verbs and things like that, broke it apart, synonyms, and then matched it to a whole database of videos and then shows like small clips based on what you're sending. So that was kind of like an early version of that. And I was already, I've been interested in cognition and how to make computers think and evolutionary systems forever. So like the world is now catching up with all of that with the large language models that have become so popular these days.
Well, with all this story, I almost envisioned you that you're like Einstein, white hair, and because you definitely are a genius. Because back in 2003, at least we here at Tebis, we didn't think at all about AI or computer learning. Even though we are working in the computer field with our CAD/CAM system, it never crossed our mind. So you were an early adopter, really, when it comes to this AI. And throughout your, what isn't it, close to 30 years now almost that you've been doing this, you've ran probably across a lot of the industries. I mean, if that's manufacturing industry or some of the other industries that are out there. So I got to ask this question in terms of the AI adoption, especially in today's world in 2026. What is your overall thought process or the read of these industries of where the AI adoption stands? Is it being utilized or not, or where does it sit right now?
So I'm going to just talk about the last 2 years in particular, because things are very different right now in 2026 than they were in 2024. So 2024 into 25, there was a lot of hype deflation, I would call it. But even with the hype deflation, there was already a big disparate difference between people's exposure and experience with quote unquote AI systems. I say AI systems in general because it's kind of a big bucket within that. You still have today, and today meaning we're almost mid 26, but Q2 26, that there are managers, executives, sometimes in very big enterprise companies who are barely just still using ChatGPT in a browser and are just starting to get familiar with it.
Right.
And yet there's been a lot of advancement the last 2 years, but a lot of it has catalyzed and become this new emergent abilities and capabilities have really appeared this year in particular, the first few months, that has really pushed things across. So adoption looks very lumpy right now, even within companies. I was consulting actually for a manufacturing company. They do software, but it's related to manufacturing. I was consulting with them at the time of this recording, it was 3 weeks ago, and I finished that up. And in that company, I cannot name their name because of NDAs.
Of course.
But in that company, it was their product engineering team was very advanced with AI, like to the point where I was impressed with all the things they were doing. But then their non-product engineering teams are still in the Stone Ages and struggling to get access to things. Meanwhile, they've got multiple licenses for different, potentially overlapping solutions. Their marketing team is begging the IT team, which is now the product engineering team. So there's like this confusion of roles going on, to install for them these MCP servers, but then they're not using the official ones through their enterprise licensing that make the MCP controlled. Instead, they're just getting on the side, on the hush, like local MCP servers installed on their laptops to connect to their marketing system. So it's like the governance and everything on that is just like all over the place. And then the education is really lopsided as well. So you just have the screaming ahead product engineering team, which they're doing feature releases that used to take 6 months. They're doing them every 6 weeks now with, with completely, no, all bugs solved, product release, tested, validated, 6 week cycle instead of 6 months. So it's a huge acceleration in productivity on that side. And meanwhile, the rest of the company is just scrambling on the ground in the desert and not knowing, how to, and just missing basics.
But that must be incredibly difficult for you. I mean, when you walk into these types of companies where you have opposite worlds, where you have the early AI adopter and really the geniuses in this company adopting it quite well, And then you have potentially even management that are supposed to be the decision makers
Yeah.
that are kind of pulling back the reins a little bit and go, oh, well, not so fast. I don't know what this thing does. And they're kind of stopping it. That must be incredibly fast. How do you deal with this when you walk into those type of companies to convince both sides that this is the best thing for their company?
Well, my role specifically in the collaboration was the technical aspects of AI governance, but there was the services we were providing were also non-technical as well, but that was my focus was on that. So in terms of the governance layer in that, so my focus is on, well, first helping management understand even what kinds of levels of AI is going on, because a lot of what they're focusing on is the things that they should have been focusing on in 24, 25, but not the new stuff you can do with AI in 26. Specifically, now you can have actual agents that do entire jobs independently, and they weren't even thinking or realizing that they have people in their company who are building those. They were thinking more about, I want to make sure that a human doesn't take private information about our company and goes into a browser window in ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever, and pastes in that information. It's like, that's great, you're thinking about that, but now you've got your whole data that's accessible to these agents, and how are you even controlling or managing or having oversight over those? So it's a combination of policy, right, which are rules that need to be, in my opinion, as simple as possible and not super restrictive, otherwise people will go around them. And then it's also the systems in place that enforce the policy so that people need to remember less rules. If you have a system that just naturally filters out private information when you use an AI, or maybe the AI you're using is vetted to be 100% secure and you don't need to worry about private information going in it, that's way easier than trying to get people to never make a human mistake of posting something in that they shouldn't have. It's bound to happen, even if it's by error, eventually, if it's just a rule instead of a system that's enforcing it. So that was a lot of my focus, as well as just helping management to get a better sense of what's even going on in their company. So kind of outside perspective.
But if management is not on board or not a believer into this, I wouldn't even say believer, that are not immersed in it, in this entire AI world, because they just learned how to talk to ChatGPT or asking simple questions. How do you, or giving the guidance of how to do certain things within a company?
Yeah, I think education really applies across the board. It doesn't just apply to the people on the floor who are doing the work, but it also applies to management. And I think it depends a bit on the person that I'm talking to. Some people are very eager and excited and want to learn, and they want to figure out all this new AI stuff. And others are, resistant, skeptical, don't understand the value. And so depending on where someone is, I think the conversation is different in that regard. Sometimes projects that take place within companies are from that place of skepticism as a whole, like the entire, not just maybe the upper management, but the whole company might have skepticism. And then the kinds of projects and initiatives that take place are things that are designed to prove validity in the value that LLM systems, AI systems can provide. And LLM, but it could be machine learning, whatever the flavor of AI is for that particular situation. So then we get into roadmap planning and prioritization of projects and things like that. Sometimes organizations have a different issue, which is they have a mandate. Maybe they don't want to fall behind on the AI thing, so they come up with a mandate like everyone 20% speed increase, or everyone should have AI installed on their computer, and we need to figure out those licenses. But there's nothing beyond that, and those are really either not show a lot of value, and then they're like, why are we not seeing a lot of uptick? Because there needs to also be a North Star, like a driving direction that is applying these systems to things,
So which industry sees that North Star, or which are accelerating more, in your personal opinion, when it comes to the AI application and its use?
Yes, so I guess just to give a bigger picture of the kinds of clients that I work with or have worked with. So I would say historically about 60 or so % of our clientele has been in manufacturing, but the other 40% has been pretty broad across different industries. in 2024, the vast majority actually of our work was in manufacturing. But in 25 and now into 26, we've seen a lot of either proposals haven't been going further with manufacturing, or we do a discovery process and then it just kind of stagnates. And so manufacturing industry, at least from our small sample set of what we've been seeing, the manufacturing customers we've been talking to, most are still not moving as fast as other industries. Other industries are moving a lot faster right now, especially this year, though, really. This year is when things have really picked up. Where we're seeing the strongest demand is actually from digital agencies or other software development groups.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that, or any company that has a product that is software or that uses software or builds software are seeing huge upticks of AI adoption. And I think that has a lot to do with the breakthroughs that have been happening since December in agentic development. But right now, there's also a flurry of speed around everything that is autonomous agents and agent development. Or just embedding agents into applications and services. So, we have a few projects that are very distinctly different from each other. The only thing that's similar is that we're using AI to build applications that have AI in them. And then the AI that's in it, we're doing work to, whether it's security, hallucination reduction, error rate reduction, but also cost optimization, observability, stuff like that, as well as the actual, feature development of those applications. So those range from data intelligence platforms, connecting ERP systems together into on-demand reporting that you can then just talk to with conversationally, all the way over to like voice agents that we're building that listen into executive calls and then offer very, very well thought, considered questions at just the right moment, which is not that easy for an AI to do. AIs, if you want to get good response, usually you have an AI that just goes blah, 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 blah. But here we have a enterprise environment with management layer, and for the system to be good, it has to.
These companies now, these industries that you just now mentioned that you've dealt the most right now with, what would you say is their biggest gain? What are some of the tangible items that they're walking away with? Is it all about just the speed or the quality of the decisions that they're giving you, or maybe even cost? What is it? What is their gain that sets them apart?
So there are and you mentioned the three. So there are three main parts to any technological innovation revolution for it to really be a tidal wave of takeover. Yeah, if it's better, faster, and cheaper, then it takes over. It's a huge revolution. The better part is the part, in my opinion, that's holding back the pace right now. That's the harder part. That's where, if I look at where we spend time, it's kind of like making a sword out of metal. So you can get a sword really quickly, but to really get a good sword, you have to polish it and polish it and polish it, right? Like all the time comes in the sharpening of the blade.
Right.
And it's like that a lot with these AI systems. You can make something that posts terrible content on your website at high speed for cheaper than you would ever pay a person tomorrow. Like that's not hard, but getting it to post articles or to do jobs, let's say it's jobs within your, manufacturing process, whether that's inventory management or sales facilitation, whatever it might be, getting it to do it as good or better than a person, that's where the craft comes in to achieve that. And so where the impacts have been really strong right now is in those areas where the AI, not only the model, but the harness, which is what the AI goes into, the control, that kind of, it's like the body of the brain. Is that another way to think of the harness, right?
Okay.
So the harnesses and the brains have been hitting these catalyzing moments in a few different fields this year, which have really created that catalyzation. So everything that's related to sales, content production, thought leadership, everything in that area has really crossed over the hill. And then any kind of job that is very deterministic or workflowy, but still requires a judgment call. That's what the LLM essentially does, is it helps you to automate a qualitative decision that normally before in code you couldn't, because the code wanted it to be either 1 or 2, right? Like or 0 and 1, I guess, binary kind of choices.
Right.
So all of that has really opened up, plus also the actual coding itself, whether that's coding those things I talked about or actually writing and developing software code, which then opens up the world for SaaS kind of applications. So we're doing a lot also of custom apps, like one application, actually that data intelligence one I was talking about, that one is saving the company $60,000 a year. And it only took about, I think, that first release, and there's going to be more features added, but it was a fraction of the 60K. So they're paying a one-time cost to build of a fraction of their annual, and then the monthly amount is like way less than their old SaaS platform, and it's connected. So you can create these custom systems now that solve your particular needs. And ERP pain, and especially manufacturing. I mean, I think like 1 out of 2 manufacturing companies I talk to always bring up how they're unhappy with their ERP for insert the reason, and it's never the same ERP. So apparently they all make people unhappy in different ways. But there's now real solutions to connect systems up in that way. We had a project, it didn't go all the way through last year, but it's not a released project, but we got far along with one last year, where it was about connecting the ERP over to a system for doing custom reporting, and then also connecting all of the IoT systems, the Internet of Things, capable manufacturing, essentially robots that do different jobs on their floor, to that centralized system, so they could get more advanced on-demand reporting from all of their equipment and from the ERP than the ERP currently allows them to do. And I think their ERP was, I'm trying to remember the number, I think they were charging them $6,000 or $5,000 per custom report.
Wow.
That they wanted them to create. And I remember when I saw that number, I was just like, that's crazy. Yeah, because once you build this system custom, making a new report it's peanuts. It's really fast. Yeah.
So with those kind of gains, I mean, $60,000 that they're saving, that's not small change for a lot of the companies. But you mentioned earlier that back in 2024, you were heavily involved in the manufacturing sector. I mean, it's only fair to ask, because this is a podcast that is really focusing on the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
What has changed in your mind, or what do you think has happened that manufacturing has become a little bit more stagnant? I mean, I would think that they're welcoming this because of the labor shortage and all those kind of things that they're running into, that they would apply AI on every single corner of their business.
Yeah, I would say there's multiple factors that are taking place. Back in 24 as well, we had the pressure of an election season, which created uncertainty. We had, I don't know if it was a recession, but there was definitely economic stagnation. And then going into 25, several people that I know in manufacturing world, or clients I was talking to, or clients that I had, or even just conferences when I would go and network with people in manufacturing, there was a theme that was similar there too, which was that a lot of the tariffs that were being placed, added, and removed were creating a lot of uncertainty in the manufacturing sector. And and lots of people were pro-tariff, but even the people who were pro-tariff said that the thing that was difficult for them was not knowing if the tariffs is going to stick, how long they're going to last, or they just appear out of nowhere. And so that was creating a lot of chain disruption. And then, and so for them also problems with potential, in some cases, problems within their financial investors not wanting to invest yet, because they're not, you can't calculate your projected return on something if you don't know what the tariff is going to be in X number of months. I don't hear tariffs as much anymore right now. Like, that has definitely quieted down, but that was a theme during part of 25. Another thing in 25 that I saw a lot was education around 2 categories. One, management would hear AI is amazing, you put it in, your world's going to change instantly. And so then they would ask for this project. I remember this one client in particular, they had a very long list of all of the security credentials and certifications that they wanted the new system to be built in, and enterprise and all these things. And they just kept adding more and more things on the stack of what they wanted the system not only to do, but to be accredited in. And by the time we came back and told them the price tag, because now we're talking like a serious deployment, they were just shocked. They were like, I thought this was just going to be really quick and easy project
and cheap.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to, and that company in particular, that manufacturing company was in a situation where they told me they have more demand than they can handle, and they have production capacity to double, but their only bottleneck was around the whole sales enablement, all that middle part of like actually being able to get your customers in, find out their specific, because they have to do custom quotes. So they have sales engineers that build out custom solutions for the manufacturing. Their customers are other manufacturing companies, so they're building out solutions for them. So that was their bottleneck. And so we were looking at a project to do essentially AI-assisted sales engineering process with helping to do the quote for the engineering quotes that are at least 80% accurate really quickly, and then all the sales follow-up and enablement to make sure that the sales engineers are spending as little time as possible on the stuff that they don't want to be doing anyway, which is a lot of the follow-ups and chasing and also the initial buildup of the quotes, Anyway, so this whole project for them was projected to potentially help them to double their revenue from 40 to 80 million a year. And so the ROI on this platform was going to be hit within basically a month or two, but it was still sticker shock for them. They were just like, oh, no, this is way too expensive. And then we had another proposal, also very substantial. They wanted to do a lot of intelligence between, they have engineers that go on to these webinars that do these show and tells, but then they have lots of questions, and then it's really time consuming for them to answer all those questions. So they have like this, and then internally they have very limited people who have all the knowledge in their head. And so they were looking at a solution to kind of take that knowledge, make essentially kind of a virtual engineer that also to protect against retirement, because a lot of people in that company, but I think a lot of manufacturing companies are, there's an aging problem. So anyway, so that project was around that. And again, it was going to need like 5 people working on this project for a certain number of months because there was a lot of information to pull in. And then we were almost there to initiate it. And then CEO jumped in, bless his heart. He said, hey, I met this kid who just graduated out of school. He seems pretty sharp in AI. Let's not do this project. We're just going to hire him and see what he can do. And I remember that moment where like me and the other 4 people, which was also some of the people on the client side too. So even on the client side, everyone just was silent, looking at each other, so confused, because we were just like, wait, what? This is like a really involved multi-system project that you want to do with really ambitious goals. And I don't know. So, and it's hard to read into that exactly what the motivation is. Is it that he thought that this person could actually replicate what, is taking a bunch of engineers to be doing who have all this experience? Is it just a buyer education challenge in that case, right? Like, why does it need to be this sophisticated? Or maybe, they're just not feeling ready and they want to just see what they can get done working from the bottom up.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of that, those kind of 2 themes. Either, I'm going to just do it myself. How hard could it be? Or I thought this was magic. Why does it cost money? So those were the kind of the two big themes in manufacturing last year that I was seeing a lot.
Well, let's look at one of them, because I think this is huge. Because when you walk into the room, I think you can kind of feel or sense which people have the knowledge and which one don't. And then I think you would automatically go into like a teaching mode and education mode. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that? Because obviously you're there to promote your company and you have solutions of how to do it. And all of a sudden you are almost like the kindergarten teacher and trying to teach them of how this AI is going to be implemented and what the steps are and what the end result and the gains are going to be. How do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, a lot of it depends practically on who it is I'm engaging with and talking with. If I'm directly engaged by the CEO of a company, it's a very different kind of conversation than if the procurement department or the marketing department or the VP of technology and so forth. So I'm not always tapping right into the top layer of a company, especially when it's very big. But that said, I mean, one thing that this has always been true of just how I work personally, at least, is I'm pretty good, or I focus a lot on translating things that are technical to non-technical and then back and forth, or, I also can cross over into other domains like marketing lingo or design lingo, and I'm multidisciplinary. That's kind of my background. But I would say that, different people care about different things. So if I'm talking to the CFO, they want to know about how much this is going to cost and what are the risks and what's the asset value. And what are the possible scenarios? In what scenario is the asset value worth zero and we've wasted all our money? And what's our ROI? And blah, 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 blah. And then also for them, they want to know about the alpha gain. Like if the growth rate of the company is 4% and this is projected to bump them up to 8%, that's what they want to know. And then how do we then measure that over time, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So, you're having a different kind of conversation there than if you are with a leader who is, in some companies, there could be resistance within certain teams or people. People yes. are worried about, job retention or, job retention is a big one, but then there's also people who are just anti-AI for other reasons. So then that person might be wondering about, maybe the leader is very pro AI and is trying to figure out, how do I get the team to be on board? How do I resolve these points of tension? And so there I'm working more on a level of, how do you turn this into a vision away from a mandate? How do you frame projects, like reframing a project so that it's there to support your team, right. to augment them. So, because a lot of what we're doing really is to help people to be doing less of the things they don't want to be doing and more of the right. things they do want to be doing. It's like the microcosm of the business as a whole. If the business as a whole is trying to lower its bottom line and increase its top line, people are trying to reduce their bottom line in air quotes, which is their time that is mundane and wasted on stuff, and increase their top of the line, which is time that they're doing on things that is more fulfilling, more thoughtful, more interesting.
Have you ever run into a leader in one of your meetings that you have the sense of that he wants, I'm going to reduce 50% of my labor cost if I have this AI thing there?
So yes, there are companies whose goal is to lower the bottom line. I think the easiest place you can make cost benefits from these LLM systems, the very first thing that's easy is cost reduction. Cost reduction could look like someone is spending out of their 40 hours a week, 10 hours a week doing this rote basic activity. So you automate that away. That person then has 10 hours free to do something else. You're not necessarily eliminating that person's role. You're just opening up their time to be doing other things. But the truth is there are people who are looking to replace certain role with agents that are doing that job instead. I'm not going to say that that's not happening. Right. I think the type of work that people need to be and are also moving into are just going to be different kinds of roles that are using AI to augment their capabilities. Mm-hmm. So I think it's almost like the vision I have in my head is like a slippery balloon or something like that. If you just try and eliminate the human being entirely, what ends up happening is the human just kind of slurps into a different kind of position, So people are absolutely... and so the second phase that we're going to see, going back to that, right now it's how do companies reduce their bottom of the line. But if company A has 5 times more output than company B, the question isn't, how do I reduce my bottom of the line? It's how do I match that level of productivity? And you need human beings to be managing and monitoring that. Right now, when people are thinking about ChatGPT in 24, 25, they're thinking about, the analogy would be, you're on the floor building, let's say a car, and up until now, you've been using the welding equipment yourself. And so you roll in this little robot arm that hopefully is going to pass you exactly the right tool when you need it. That's mm-hmm. kind of the AI in a browser perspective. But where we're moving right now in 26 with these autonomous agents and the roles that people need to take in this new world, it's more like moving people behind the glass on that car manufacturing floor. And it's only robots building the cars mm-hmm. themselves. So people are still the kinds of jobs and functions that people need to be training for and doing in this new world are just very different than the old ones. You're not manually making belts anymore by hand, custom made. You're building the machines and maintaining and managing the machines that build the belts. So there is job displacement is going to be a natural function of this.
Right. And I think quite a few people that we talked to too, they're apprehensive with this entire AI because they're saying, well, if AI will take over my job and then I'm out of a job and all those kind of things. So there's this natural scare of, okay, I'm going to give in to this AI. I'm going to give AI a chance because eventually it's going to take over my job. I have a personal situation where this person used to work in the automotive field. He left, and automatically this person or the manager then came to his coworker and then pretty much asked, "Hey, who do we have to backfill this individual?" And then the answer was, "Well, you have nobody." Oh, and then, of course, the natural progression was, "Oh, let's figure out if we can do this in AI." So
Hmm.
there's, of course, that scare. But what should leaders, when they deal with you, and especially there's probably more than you out there because this AI field is such a booming industry right now of learning and educating and all that kind of stuff. And there probably is going to be a difference between a real application or just a presentation or a demo. And how can a leader or a company figure out the differences between a company A that just gives you a really beautiful demo, but really the application may not be correct, or company A that really says, you know what, we can really help you out from this. And what should they be asking those particular individuals?
So I think the tangible outcomes is really important.
Hmm.
And thinking from the end result backwards. It's kind of like if you build a house, you think about the end product and then you work backwards on how you're going to achieve that. Roadmap planning within that is really important. When I work with companies at this early stage, especially ones that have lots of ideas, I like to map out first you're brainstorming on all the different opportunity areas that exist, either from their own ideas or ideas that I bring in. And then from that, you're prioritizing between impact and effort. And if you want to try and get some quick wins, then you're trying to hit the quadrant where it's highest impact, lowest effort first and focus on
Okay.
there. And then I think a lot of these gains you can really see in most of the time in 3 months, maybe 6 at most. If it's a big, wide enterprise and you're trying to do a big, large rollout, obviously it's going to be more than that time. But that's not usually where companies are starting. They're starting with, a department or an easier system across the whole company, things like that. And I think there's just different sub areas to be thinking about that the person you're bringing in should be thinking about. So that's,
Yeah.
maintainability. How is the system going to self-improve and learn? What is the interface people are going to be using? Are you thinking about security? Are you thinking about context and memory and knowledge? And how is the data? Because you need to have good data for these systems,
Right.
and you need to have good process. And if you don't have those things in place, then the project needs to include either the cleanup or the creation or the organization of data and process in order to make the system successful.
Very quickly, what does the future look like in AI, in your mind? What does that picture look like? And hopefully, it's not going to be like Terminator, where AIs and the machines take over. So,
So the future, it depends how far we go into the future, but I'm going to go a little, maybe like a short midterm. So, not like this year, but in the next few years, what we're going to be seeing. I like to think of how people are interacting with these systems in a vertical and a horizontal direction. So the vertical is the building of these AI agentic systems to enable then people to work across the horizontal. So what I mean by that is more and more of the things that used to take time to quote unquote do to go between either problem solution or idea result are just all compressing and shrinking to zero as the platform in quote, which is this AI enabled infrastructure, is handling that part of the equation, which is also because we're going to be seeing huge acceleration in software development in general. So software tools, I don't think we've even seen the beginning yet of how we're about to write more code than we've written in the last 20 years in the next year. I can
wow.
guarantee you that. So it's going really fast right now. What that might look like is, and let me actually take a step back to talk about the kinds of areas that people are going to continue to be important in, because that'll connect the dots here. So the
Yeah.
first is directing, and by that I mean, so of course it's directing at the top level, but even within your function, your discipline, it's the direction of that. So it's your expertise. Why are we going left or right to begin with? Navigating the ship, within your engineering department or within your marketing department, whatever it might be. Then it's the next area is the interaction layer, and by interaction I mean people to people. People want to buy from people. People want to listen to podcasts done by people, Michael. So I
Hmm.
think you're
Good.
fine,
I still
right?
have a job.
So anything that's people to people is going to stay at least for a while until the new kids grow up and they think it's stupid that you're not just talking to robots. They prefer, I don't know. But right now we have a long runway of that still. People want to talk with people. And then the third category is ownership. And so if the AI system isn't doing the right job, but also if you're talking to a person and they're worried about the product or something like that, it's not that you can't point your finger at the AI system. You still point it at a person, and then that person takes care of that problem, or they own it. You can't grow a business with just one person. You need to have delegated responsibility. So ownership is the third kind of area. And then the building of the platform or the solutions is, you could argue it's both building and supporting, the creating of it and then the maintaining and supporting of it. There's a support role also in the human element of it too. So, what that might look like in practice, you might have a conversation with someone about speccing out, I don't know, I'll just invent something like the custom heating cooling system for their factory, because that's what your business does. You build those things for other facilities. You'll talk with them. You'll learn everything you can. You've recorded that. The conversation is just naturally recorded. You get back to your office space, and the black box, which is all of the AI platform, the software platform that's behind you, supporting you, is already coming up with possible solutions for you to look at, options to consider, and then asking you questions about things that maybe you or the client need to weigh in on to help with that decision. So you're having a conversation at that point, and so you're more reviewing, orchestrating, rather than doing a lot of that manual work.
Right.
And then you get back, the results that you then just review, check off. Maybe you have something to change, maybe you don't. If you had something to change, then the AI system learns from that so that the next time it doesn't keep doing the same mistake again. So it's learning actively. And so it's removing a lot of the friction, I would say, between idea and manifestation. It's actually I think it's really exciting. And I think there's a lot of this resistance to it, but it's also incredibly empowering for anyone who wants to be faster to manifest whatever it might be, whether it's sales or products or creative ideas.
Right. Well, it's a good thing that Arnold isn't coming anytime soon, so we're safe on all of this. But let me close out with this and ask the one of the final things to you, because obviously we're dealing with time here. Yeah. Obviously, most of our clientele, I have a feeling they're a little bit behind the eight ball. They're not quite understanding where they are. Maybe they're behind AI. They're really not understanding it. What is your advice to them? What should they be doing right now that haven't been involved in asking questions in the AI field? And maybe even they want to communicate to you and contact you and shooting your brain and seeing what's happening in this AI field and how they can get involved. What is your advice there?
Things are moving and changing very quickly. I think staying up to speed right now is very challenging. I mean, I find it challenging and I'm super deep in it. And by challenging, I mean, you have to be picky because there's so much happening on a weekly basis. I would say, especially for management, I think you need to check a few boxes. First, you need to have a little bit of exposure to it to kind of get it, so that it's not just hocus pocus to you. Next, you need to understand, I would say, the levels of capability or the potential benefits and gains that are happening right now in different areas. That might include also an understanding of the classification of different sophistication levels. Everything, and it's a little challenging right now because everyone is misusing terms. Like everyone calls everything AI and everyone calls everything agentic now when it's not really that agentic, So having an understanding of these levels of capability so that you can become an educated buyer, I think is a really important area to be focusing on. The next area to be so I would also do we do these AI readiness assessments. I think I have a blog post on that you can you don't need to hire me for that. I'm happy to be hired for that, but you can also just review the blog post and check yourself on where you see your level of sophistication is across the different domains. Usually that's also different depending on your company size, it could be different in different departments and so forth. And there the approach is really looking at the weakest link in that chain and then focusing there because it's going to hold you back. Some companies, they have no AI governance policy at all. even though they're moving ahead in other departments, and that's scary. And then another company might have really good policies in place for the AI governance. I mean, this usually doesn't happen, but it could. But their AI adoption is just snail pace so they need help more in that. So yeah, I would say AI change management, focusing on that, change management in general, the principles of change management, governance, technical capability understanding, and then complement it with a bit of personal experience. And then thinking practically about how do we turn this from experiment into realized value, and where is that value best realized? Because sometimes it's a clear ROI of time savings. Other times it's something that's a little less indirect, which is knowledge retention. There's other areas you could also focus on that are important, which is getting new talent in the door. New talent wants to come in. I mean, new talent will bring with it AI capability, because kids are all up with the new coolness. But you need to also create an attractive environment to attract those kind of people as well. So it's a little bit.
If they want to communicate with you or contact you because you seem to have all of your eggs in a row and you know exactly what the AI world does, because otherwise we wouldn't be talking to you, what can they reach out to you?
Different ways. I'm pretty easy to reach. So there's the company website, fountaincity.tech. And contact form. I will definitely see that. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I do have a YouTube channel that right now I guess it's like once a month I'm posting a video, but sometimes it's once a week. And there's also a newsletter on Fountain City if you want to be more of a voyeur than an active reach out. But yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody about anything. That brings me a lot of joy. It's just awesome. Hear what people's questions are and see if I can help.
Well, Sebastian, I really appreciate you coming on here and giving us your thoughts and also the trends and where we're going and all this. So thank you first and foremost for joining us here. I hope that we run into each other with the entire AI surrounding us. Hopefully it's not quite going to happen where these robots are all running around and we're standing behind the glass, even though just recently I saw that, one of the airlines is trying to use humanoids to push the luggage stuff and do all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be an interesting future. I agree with you on that, and it's going to happen relatively fast. So thank you for your insight. Thank you for your advice. And any final thoughts from you since we still have you on here?
No, thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, my friends, you heard it here first. AI is here. Grab it while it's still in the infancy stage so you can learn along with it. Start with the small things first, then get invested in it, learn what it really means with AI governance, what that all means, and get connected with the right people, because you could spend a lot of money going in the wrong direction. And this is why companies like Sebastian and Fountain City, and there's probably many other that can help you out doing this. You should be looking into this, because you know what I'm hearing a lot of is I don't find the right people. I don't have enough experienced people, all this labor buzz. So definitely look into this AI. We don't want to replace individuals, but we also don't want to close our doors. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you found that our discussions are giving you some thoughts and some ideas, some insightful items to think about what you can do in your manufacturing sector. Feel free to share our episode within your network, send it via emails, via text, or whatever. We'd love to hear your feedback. So send us your feedback. We're here to help you. We're here to help give you more ideas that you can find in your own four walls. And that's the reason why we're on the air. So until next time, keep shaping the future, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining this episode of All Access. Please leave a comment or review with your feedback or what you'd like to hear in future episodes. To learn more about manufacturing technology solutions and Tebis's capabilities, visit our website at Tebis. That's TEBIS.com.